Yes, guys, thank you for listening to another episode of the Daily Dose podcast. Today is another episode that I've been really excited for. He's he's someone that I think has often been overlooked in the UK scene for a long time, and then in 2019, in my opinion, put together one of the performances of the year on a massive stage, and everybody's talking about this guy lately. Lazy Ass Jack, how's it going, man?
It's going very well, thank you. Thank you very much. How are you?
Not bad, mate. Just surviving the boredom at the moment. But no, I appreciate your time for coming on, mate. Thank you very much. I know you're very busy at the moment, but jumping straight into the questions, man. Like, how was it that you got into battle rap originally? Like, what did it for you?
Okay, so I can remember it really clearly, actually. I went round to my friend's house. I was, 14, 15 years old, something like that. And these guys, they went to a different school to me. I'd known them at primary school, and then we'd gone off our separate ways at secondary school. And anyway, so they were sort of chatting about this. They were talking about all these various guys that and I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. And I was a bit shy back in the day, so I didn't bother asking. But when we got back to this guy's house, and they immediately flipped open their laptops and they put it onto YouTube. And anyway, they put on the to the test 10 highlights, and the people that they've been talking about with Lunacy, Matter, Blizzard, Lego, all these people. It meant nothing to me. But I sat down and I saw the highlight reel for to the test 10. And I just was like, what is this? I need to know exactly what this is. And it just kind of went from there. I was absolutely drawn in by that highlight reel.
No, I can imagine, man. It's a crazy event as well. So it's a great place to have started, really. But
Mhm.
so you were still, you're still in school at this point then.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, sort of. I was in school. Must be just like running up to sort of GCSE sort of time, somewhere around then. Yeah.
Right.
Um, But I think that was a good time, right? Because at my school nobody ever gave a shit, but at their school it was like I remember them telling me that it was like that was almost all anyone was talking about. It was really, I think just approaching the apex of sort of Don't Flop success, at the point where Don't Flop and battle rap were absolutely synonymous. And I think it was a really good time to sort of. I mean, it doesn't quite have the sort of credibility of being there since day dot, but if you're going to get hooked at a time, that's a good time to get hooked.
Definitely. Yeah, man. That kind of like the golden age, really, in the UK at least. It was huge back then. Like tryouts were getting probably more views than most battles get now, and it was
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. I mean, I think that, there were so many reasons for that. I think that I just don't. I sort of feel like it was the right cultural moment. I remember if you think about the sort of TV shows and stuff that were doing well around that time, it was sort of In-Betweeners was sort of people really loved sort of crude stuff. They loved sort of shock and offense, and now obviously that we couldn't be further from that in many regards. So the ground for battle rap to thrive was much more fertile back then than it is now. So when people say it's like, how can we get it back? How can we get it back? I don't think we are going to get it back. I think we've got to stop doing it for those reasons. Kind of, if you want to be here, you want to do it for the passion and the love. That's great. But if you're doing it for views, I would get another hobby because I don't think they're coming back. I don't think
I
it's going to
completely agree,
provide.
man. And yeah, no, I like your point about the what was kind of fashionable at the time and what people were into at the time. It's definitely changed rapidly in the last few years. So yeah, I'd see what you mean in that sense. And I don't personally, I don't care about battle rap getting back to that kind of period in which UK battlers were hitting hundreds of thousand views. That's not overly important to me in terms of how battle rap progresses from here. But I mean, I guess from a business angle, I suppose you've got to think of it like that. But
Absolutely, yeah. But I tell you what, man, like the Don't Flop sort of getting back on its feet. I mean, this whole virus thing is a real kick in the teeth because they were building up some really good momentum, but I went to a event. They did a tryout event. It was where Georgie Roots tried out against Switchley, rest in peace. And he and it was just what I was sort of worried about with that rap was the kind of this is going to sound weird, but the events have been getting more and more tame. Obviously, I came up on King of the Ronalds where it was like a madness at every event, something crazy kicked off, and then I don't know, there was just a sense of that everybody getting a little bit silly, a little bit hysterical, a little bit, really just involved in the fun of it. And then I got that, and so that was great. And I was sort of like, that was an event where I thought, this thing might actually be coming back a little bit now. Not necessarily in terms of the views, but in terms of the feeling at events, which is really, I'm very concerned about battle rap as a live art form. YouTube, I can take it or leave it. In fact, I actually think if you really do want to try and get battle rap to be reborn, maybe a year or two of not putting battles online might be the way to do it. Make it a more exclusive event again. You either there or you missed it. That's how you build up a mythology of things, in my opinion. But then also in Dublin for Broken Resolutions too, really cool, old school feel, good fun. Everybody's there for a good time. Because as much as I really enjoyed that Apex and the Premier Battle sort of stuff, there's always quite a serious sort of tone to them, which I'm not sure is massively marketable to your average consumer. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. And like you said, so with yourself, you came up on King of the Ronalds, which for any outsider looking in is a really interesting concept because it's possibly the most left field league ever in that sense.
I think it might well have been, yeah. People sort of say that they kind of I know that No Coast have sort of every now and then tried to say that King of the Ronalds sort of ripped off No Coast, but I think King of the Ronalds was a bit more punk than No Coast as far as I can tell. But maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
And I don't think the UK will ever get back to the way things were, in a sense that the UK scene was at its best when Don't Flop were your big league and then you had King of the Ronalds as your secondary league. That was the healthiest point that we were ever at. And the reason being was because they both brought something very different to the table whilst it's still being battle rap. And
absolutely.
I think...
sorry.
No, go on, man.
Oh, I was just going to say one of my favorite vibes ever was the Don't Flop KOTR rivalry. It wasn't just the fact that you had one league doing the mainstream stuff and another league doing a bit weird stuff. It was the fact that Mickey was pushing this entire fuck Rowan, fuck Don't Flop. He would do it in the intro to almost every battle, and it was just hilarious to watch.
Yeah,
and I think there's something that people could buy into. It was like a narrative, right? And battle rap needs narratives. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No worries at all, man. And I've been saying for a while, in terms of the UK scene, this would never happen. But I think the only way that that promoters can make UK battle rap, I imagine the business isn't bad, but to make it great again, I think we need to create a UK battle rap platform where each league uploads their battles to, and instead of having it split out, because I think Premier Battles for the first few seasons, obviously they had a great concept and they were doing something different, but apart from that, when Don't Flop stopped doing their regular events, you had your Code Reds, you had your Chalked Outs, you had your Dub Scandals, your Gift of the Gabs. They were all doing something pretty much the same, which was fans would turn up, watch 6 or 7 battles and go home again. And it was hard to keep up in that sense because there was just content coming from so many different avenues. And I just don't think it's healthy for the scene whatsoever. And I think, like you said, with Broken Resolutions, you were on that card recently. That's why I think Ireland's scene is so healthy at the moment, because if you live in Ireland and you're into battle rap, you know where to look. It's in one place. And I think that's what we need to get back to as a scene as well.
I agree. It's sorry, my dad just came into. Sorry about that. I think we need to get back to something like that as well, because you're right. We completely messed up the supply demand ratio. There were way too many avenues. Way too many avenues, too many sources of content, and not enough people A, battling, and B, not enough people watching. So it just ended up in a sort of it was a diluted sort of fan base. You didn't, I mean, I think Gift of the Gab maybe in that Fallout were the closest thing to sort of having their own. Though if you went to the Gift of the Gab events, quite often you would see people that only came to the Gift of the Gab events. They didn't come through to the other stuff. They were some ways of getting something unique and of their own going. But yeah, ultimately, a lot of the same battles appearing on the same leagues. There weren't really. I mean, I tell you what, Beast Anglia might just fucking be what they're putting on battles with battlers that I've never heard of. I don't know where they've plucked them from. A couple of people are filtering through and in off different leagues and stuff like that. But by and large, they are cultivating a new crop of battlers. And just let them do their thing, man. I'm trying, I think that they might have something a bit unique going on. I feel like Nick Kelly, who runs it, he's dedicated. He's got he's doing it for all the right reasons, and they've got a good, fun sort of feel to it. And and they've got that's the most important thing. They've got their own roster of battlers, and we've not had that for a while.
No, and so definitely.
I've got hope. Don't let me down, Nick, if you're listening, because I'm putting my faith in you here.
Yeah, and I do think Dub Scandal was similar in that sense when they started as well. They were very much northern based, and they weren't really booking anybody that had been seen before and until kind of a bit later on. And I definitely like what Beast Anglia are doing, and they're bringing a lot of up and coming talent to the table. And I've noticed Art of Rap, if you're aware of them as well. That's
I've heard of them. I've not been to any of their events or anything like that. I mean, are they booking new guys? Like I don't really ever see them promoted. I sort of hear about it through the grapevine more than anything else.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, they've done 2 events, one of which was an outdoor event.
Oh, was that the one? Waterloo Archers, I think. I think I remember them putting on their first one, and they had like a whole graffiti thing going on there as well. Is that right?
That's it, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Tanika Tan and somebody else that's running it, but they did their first kind of event in a venue, I believe, last month, and it looked really good. I think I don't know if they sold out, but the venue looked full, and I'd say there's probably about 100 or so people there, and I'd never heard of any of the battlers on the card before, but a lot of them were really good. There's a guy on that platform at the moment called Moak, Moak.
Oh yeah, I've seen his name floating around. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got a big future. Like, he's very kind of, if I was picking someone in the UK scene that I'd say he's similar to, it would probably be Rivers. But
right.
He's very good, and he clearly grasps the concept of battle rap very well as well. He's got a good understanding of it, and it's definitely an interesting league as well to check out, man. And I love seeing these smaller leagues popping up out of nowhere and hearing that their events are a lot of fun and stuff, because it's just healthy for the scene overall, and I hope it brings some fresh talent to the table. But in terms of yourself, like we said, you came up through King of the Ronalds. I've been looking at your verse tracker, trying to figure out what your first battle actually was.
Yeah.
You've had quite a few battles that are no longer online, so I don't know if this is going to be correct or not. But was Odds your first battle?
Odds was my first battle, but yeah, just on that point, not only have I had a lot of battles that have, for one reason or another, had to come down offline or have been deleted or whatever, the number of battles that I've done that just never even made it online. The verse tracker is such a fraction of the number of battles I've done. It's really not representative of. I remember sometime last year I tallied up how many I'd done. And the verse tracker is not an accurate representation at all. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Such is life, I guess. But yeah, odds was my first battle in a league. I find it weird when people sort of say like, "Was that your first battle?" It's like, well, I think anybody who sort of has any sort of natural groove in battle rap has usually done a fair few. You can tell when somebody's never battled, just like their friends and stuff. You can tell when they've never had that, as a background before coming there, or people who've never rapped before in their life. You can tell when they enter a tryout like that.
Sure.
So yeah, that was my first battle on the league. Let's put it that way.
Right. And it's been, you were strictly king of the Ronalds for quite a while, really. Was
Mm.
your first appearance on Don't Flop the JB battle?
No, so the JB battle never actually happened in the end. He no-showed me. So what happened was I did a couple of 2-on-2s and stuff with on King of the Ronalds, and I think it was like my sixth, seventh battle. I battled Orwin as my Don't Flop tryout.
Okay.
And that was my first. Yeah, that was my first Don't Flop appearance. Was Orwin, and then I had and then I had Bizzo, and then the rest of my Don't Flop stuff is I think the next time I was on there was Yunnan. Oh no, Terminal, then Yunnan. Yeah.
Sure.
So a handful on Don't Flop, and hopefully more to come. I mean, also this is what I'm talking about, man. I'm forgetting shit because there's nothing on there. Obviously, I did with Don't Flop. I did the Unibrow tour as well, where I battled
Crafty
Crafty.
one, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'd already battled him once on King of the Ronalds. I mean, if anybody ever tries to battle Crafty, I'm just going to send them a death threat because I've got nothing left to say to that guy. Seriously, like it's not healthy to battle somebody as many times as I've battled Crafty.
No, no, man. It was
Uh,
a bit like a repeat of the in the house tour situation you guys were
mm.
going through, and yeah, that was a bit of a strange concept, but I can imagine it was pretty fun performing in
Oh
front of
yeah,
multiple different crowds.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would say save the Farnham one. The Farnham one was a pretty much unmitigated disaster. All the rest of them were pretty good. Um, I did Portsmouth and Nottingham dates on that, and Nottingham was really great, man. Nottingham was one of the strangest battle rap experiences that I've ever had in my life. After we'd done our battles, I don't know, like what he was just sort of, he was workshopping ways to sort of try and get the crowd involved, and we had a really good, enthusiastic, engaged crowd in Nottingham. And Grazza was there, and Grazza, when he was on King of the Ronalds, he was competent, but I never thought like, oh, this guy is sick or anything like that. But he said like, does anybody just got the mic, and he was like, did anybody want to do a freestyle battle? And Grazza was down to do it. And then there was this guy in the crowd who decided that he wanted to have a go as well, and his girlfriend was with him, and she was like, yeah, he's like a musical genius. He's going to absolutely shut it down. And then he was like, he said, okay, like, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then when we come back, we're going to have this freestyle battle, Grazza versus this dude in the crowd. And so I went and I got a beer at the bar, and this guy, this sort of sweaty, nervous-looking guy, came up to me, really fast-speaking, hyperactive, and he said, "Listen, mate, I don't know what time signature to spit my bars in." I'm like, "Dude, what are you talking time signature?" Anyway, this guy turned out to be he could rhyme words. He could definitely rhyme words. I see why he thought he could do this, but he was absolutely barking mad. I sort of went out afterwards and I bumped into him again, and he was sort of, I didn't know where I was going because I was a bit drunk and that, and he said, "Here, look, you just wait here for a second and then I'll show you where you're going." And he just ran into a casino, and he came back a little bit later. I was like, this guy, do I stay, do I go? I don't know, I don't want to offend him because he's the only person that's going to get me back to my goddamn hotel. I don't know what the hell it was. He was completely mad, but it was incredibly entertaining. But I've never had somebody ask me before what time signature to spit their a cappella battle bars in, and I don't think I'm ever gonna have it again. But it was, the whole thing was just crazy. It was just good fun. It was really good fun for moments like that. The Unibrow tour. It's a shame that they never released a highlight reel or anything like that. But I can say from being there, the enthusiasm of the crowds, going and getting people to watch who they weren't there for rap battles. They were there and just in the student union bar or whatever, and then getting a whole new crowd of people to come over is a satisfying feeling, and I also think that, trying to the success of how many fans we brought in, that certainly can be debated, but the attempt to inject new fans into the scene was absolutely what was needed at the time. So it's something that I'm very proud to have been a part of.
Sure, no, I can imagine, man, and I've got a lot of time for the amount of kind of experimental events that Don't Flop have run, and I think they should continue them on occasions as well, because I think Don't Flop, as you said earlier, they are on the way back to being what they once were. Their events are really fun again. I went to the recent one in Bristol, where with like the Crafty Yunnan title match and quite a few other battles, and I go to battle rap events fairly often, and I've never seen anybody that was in that venue apart from the battlers that were on the card, and it's really fun to go to those events as well. Like I really enjoy it, and yeah, and with the guy in Nottingham, unfortunately that is the type of person that only battle rap could bring in.
Oh yeah, but I love them though. I absolutely love them, man. I tell you, my absolute favorite events are tryout events. Not because you're there watching the best quality. It is because you've got these people without you get the most people that think, yes, I want to go try out on a rap battle league. That you're bound to have a couple of completely insane people. Sometimes sometimes the insane people are the best. But without doubt, you always get some fantastic characters. The one is sort of like it's near like Old Street in sort of central East London. There was this guy, he must have been about 45 or something. He hadn't written a single bar. I think he told me he was like a teacher or something like that, and he was freestyling everything, but he wasn't insulting the dude. He was saying stuff like, why are we here? Why can't we be nice to each other? And it's like, you get the strangest people coming through, man. But you know what? I don't know. And there was another Slovenian guy there who, again, I think he might have been tripping on something, but I really love it. I love the sort of patchwork characters that you get at those tryout events. And yeah, it's not going to be like watching, I don't know, like Shotty Horror battle, somebody. You're not going to get that polished, high quality sort of stuff. But actually, I almost prefer those tryout events just for the sense of fun. And I think that, like as I said earlier on, I think it's that kind of sense of fun that's been slightly missing a little bit from battle events recently. And I heard that the Bristol one was really good, and I'm glad to hear it from you as well.
Yeah, really fun. And I mean, I bought my ticket back in November because the week they released the tickets were £1, and for £1, I got to see 8 really good battles and just have a really good day, man. And like the bar was cheap. It was great. It was like, and I'm kind of glad that Don't Flop aren't just focusing on, the massive events like they were for a certain period of time. They stopped doing the Don't Flop extra kind of tryout or like lower tier events, if that makes sense. They were just focusing on doing like your checkpoints and your sunburns and things like that. And now it's almost like they are building from the bottom again, which I'm really enjoyed watching, and some of the fresh talent is good as well. But earlier when I mentioned your first Don't Flop battle, it was the A battle that I was thinking of when I said JB actually, and that's no longer online either, right?
No, because the training days channel got taken down, so that's gone forever, unfortunately.
I didn't actually realise that was ever uploaded on the Training Days channel. I think I assumed it was main channel, because that's a great battle.
People, people really, really. I got a lot of good feedback off that battle, man. People really loved it, and it's a real shame for me, especially because that was the battle where people sort of, it was the first battle I lost, actually. It was the first battle I lost because I had something like a 6 or 7 winning streak from my tryout on KOTR through to that A battle. But even so, like, the fact that I lost was kind of neither here nor there. It was the performance where the people that I really respected said, came up to me afterwards and said, hey, that was really good. And that's one of my favorite feelings in battle rap, when somebody that you don't even think knows who you are, or or would ever watch your battles, comes up to you and tells you that they're a fan of what you're doing. That's a great feeling. That's a great feeling. And the first time I had that really was with the A battle. So it's a real shame, and it was a really good back and forth, man, because we're so like I'm sort of very sort of wordplay oriented and angle oriented, and then A was so sort of humor and charisma and impersonations and stuff. It worked really, really well, but neither of us take it too seriously as well. So there was a good sort of rapport in the battle as well. And one of my favorite things to watch in a battle is as the respect between the two battlers builds up across the 3 rounds, and by the end of the 3rd round, we were just gassing each other shit. It was I really enjoyed it, man. That was and that just being part of Next in Line 1 as well, like as part of like a legendary event. It's
Yeah,
I haven't got a single bad thing to say about my experience in that battle. That was so much fun.
definitely. But I mean, with yourself, it took a long time before I ever got the opportunity to actually see you battle in the room live. Unfortunately, I only ever made it to 2 King of the Ronalds events. I lived abroad for a long time, and I was overseas when they first kind of started, and then when I moved back, I was working weekends for the first year or so, so it was difficult. But the only KOTR events that I made it to was the event where Hulk was meant to battle Reverse live.
A Few Good Men, was it?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
it. Where Bilzar and Bobby battled.
Yeah, A Few Good Men. A Few Good
Fiddlers.
Men. A classic, absolute classic KOTR event.
Yeah, definitely. It was a great event. And then the next one definitely was nowhere near as good. Unfortunately, it was the hardest man in the pub event in Manchester, where
Yeah.
Sir Owls no-showed Canal. Fighter and Zayn was meant to happen, and Fighter didn't even no-show. He was in the venue and still didn't do the battle.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a strange event. Obviously, Yanif tried out at that event as well, so it's I think that was the most memorable battle from the event. But
that's
yeah,
not the cursed event. Yanis tried out shit. I love Yanis. He's good people, but he is a complete wally. I mean, yeah, that's the thing, man. With King of the Ronalds, because it was such a sort of rough and ready approach to battle rap. You did get the odd battle like that, but you can sift through those. There's some real diamonds in there. There's some real diamonds in there.
Definitely. But the first time I actually got to watch you battle in like live was 0-3. So the terminal battle.
Oh yeah. That was a that was a weird battle for me. I can't believe it went as well as it did. I was so profoundly hungover, and I got drunk on the way to the event to try. I was sort of thinking hair of the dog, and I wasn't, and I fell asleep on the sofa in Fiddlers when I arrived for a little bit, and I think that was probably my saving grace. I think that maybe sobered me up a bit. But you see, like in the battle, sometimes I just shouted my setups for no good reason, like at the ceiling. Yeah, that was the alcohol, and I always try and make a point of battling sober. You know what I mean? Save for the whole battle where I deliberately got trashed beforehand because I was not happy about the fact that I was doing that battle in the first place. But yeah, it was a really strange battle for me. I can't really remember doing the battle. But I've watched the footage back. I do feel like I won that battle. I feel like he quite clearly took the first, and then I quite clearly took the second and third. But it's not one that I enjoy watching back because I'm sort of drunk. I'm sort of permanently on the brink of forgetting what I'm about to say next. I'm stumbling over the bars. I wasn't particularly happy with that performance, especially considering that I think the material, there was nothing wrong with the material. but the actual delivery and all that sort of stuff is not for me. I struggled to watch that back.
Do you know what? I found Nil 3 to be a bit of an up and down event, and some battles were great and some weren't for me whatsoever. But I really enjoyed you in Terminal. I thought it was a really good battle on both sides as well, and I never would have guessed that. Well, I never would have guessed that you were hungover or drunk again, if that makes sense. Anyway, but
still drunk, I think. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but
that's good. I'm glad that you said that, because I can definitely I know what I'm like, right, when I'm sober, and I know what I'm like when I'm drunk, and I'm definitely not my. I remember my friend watching it and him messaging me being like, were you all right when you were doing that? Because you don't seem like yourself. And yeah, but I don't know. I mean, maybe it added some character or something. Let's put it down to that.
yeah, no, it was a good battle, man, and you definitely weren't the only one that was kind of hungover / still drunk either. I mean, I'm from Cardiff, so I came up from Cardiff that morning for the event. I'd been out the night before and literally gone home to shower and then slept on the bus, kind of thing. But it was got into London. First people we bumped into, like probably about a 10-minute walk from Fiddlers, was Rory, Podge, and a few of the Irish guys, and they all looked tired and hungover, and I think pretty much everybody on that card had been out the night before, man. So it was it's not just you in that sense, but
it was on a Sunday, I seem to remember, wasn't it? Which is a bad idea.
Yeah, it was on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just asking for trouble.
It is, and especially when Fiddlers for a London venue is so reasonably priced for drinks.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine what probably happened, because they've got so many live music bookings that are probably slightly more profitable than running a battle rap event. What probably happened was there's some kind of clash in bookings, and they're going to prioritize the live music over the battle rap event as a venue. So that would be my guess, because I can't imagine Danny being like, yeah, no, I think this works better on a Sunday. He's not an idiot. He knows that that's not preferable.
No, definitely. But it was a good event. Like I said, it was a bit up and down. Like personally, I really didn't enjoy the grind clash. I thought it was just a bit odd. And
was that Tox dialect, or was that next?
Yeah,
that was next.
Yeah,
yeah. It was
no,
weird.
no, that was next in line 3. Yeah.
It was. I remember
was like singing mid round and stuff. I just didn't enjoy it whatsoever. But
that was exactly what I was about to say. That was such a strange decision to make, especially when somebody's been like, I remember in the run up to the battle, Tox was like, I've been loaded with my bars prepped and ready for like a month now, and you're going like, right, this is going to be great. But he must have shit friends, right? He must have shit friends, because that'd be rehearsing and running your shit for a month, and for nobody to say, dude, you've got to take the singing out.
Yeah,
they're not your mates. They're not your mate. Yeah. Anyway, but I mean, Dialect smoked it from what I remember. I don't think I've watched it back, to be fair. So.
Yeah, I don't think I have either. But from what I remember, I had Dialect winning pretty clearly. But it's a shame, because like I do think Tox is good on beat as well. But that was just a strange decision to have tried to pull that off. But what surprised me the most is, to be honest, obviously I've always known that you're tall, but I'm 6'6", but you were clearly taller than me.
Yeah, I'm 6'8". But I 6'6" is good, man. I say that anybody who tells me they're tall and is less than 6.5 feet tall, I'm like, but are you really though? Because it winds them up. That's. Did we speak? Did we speak at the event? Because I remember speaking to somebody really fucking tall at the event.
Yeah, we did speak pretty briefly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That must mean, like I say, I was absolutely wankered, so I don't remember it in much detail. But that must have been.
No, I was pissed by that point as well, so I don't remember what we were speaking about. I just remember having a brief chat. But yeah,
It's similar to
it's
this chat, I'm willing to bet.
yeah,
Yeah.
I imagine so. But we yeah, I remember standing quite close to you when you kind of walked into the pit, and I was like, I've never had anybody taller than me at a battle event,
Mhm.
so it was a first in many senses. But yeah,
Hey,
it was
like
just
I tell you,
something I took away from the day, man. You were fucking extremely tall, but your your kind of progression, it's been, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, it's been slower than it should have been in that, if you know what I mean. Like, I think I've always thought that you've been incredibly underrated, um, and I don't think people started speaking about you enough until the Apex battle, and the Apex battle was kind of by far, to my knowledge anyway, I could be wrong, but by far the biggest crowd that you've performed in front of.
oh yeah,
Was
no, you're absolutely right on that. Yeah.
was that a daunting experience getting up on that stage?
Nah. I'm quite lucky in this regard. I actually find it slightly easier getting up in front of big crowds than I do one on one, speaking to people one on one. I don't know what it is. I, some people would find that absolutely terrifying. There was maybe a couple of butterflies in my stomach over the first sort of 8 bars or so, but then the adrenaline kicks in, it takes over, and that's where I'm absolutely at my happiest. I find the smaller the audience, the more awkward I find it. So I was kind of in my zone there. I think that might largely be why I gave my best. Well, I mean, I think I actually potentially gave a slightly better performance against Carl French in Dublin, but certainly at that point, that was by far and away the best showing I'd ever given. So I think that the size of the crowd was suited to me. So it wasn't daunting.
Nice. No, man, that's cool. And it is, like I said in the intro, it's one of the best performances overall of last year as a whole. Like, I think
Thank you very
it
much.
so many people were talking about that battle after, and with the card being as good as it was, it must have felt amazing to have people talking about you like that afterwards.
It felt great, man. It felt great. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? Uh, uh, some battlers I know when you get to those kinds of big events like that, it's quite tempting to sort of lock yourself away in the sort of green room area or whatever you want to call it, because it sort of gives you that feeling of being, the artist, as it were. And sort of create a bit of a divide between yourself and the fans, etc. But I was there with my mate, and he was sort of in the crowd, and so I got off rather than walking back to backstage after the battle. I just went straight down the stairs back into the crowd to find my mate, and it just took me quite like he wasn't that far away, but it took me quite a long time to get to him because people were sort of stopping, sort of telling me that how they really enjoyed it, and that is, I mean, look, any battler who tells you that they don't get a bit of a kick out of people sort of paying them compliments after a performance is lying to you. Um, you know,
Definitely, yeah.
it was a really great feeling, and also when I was on stage, I didn't feel like it was going that well because although I was sort of relishing the opportunity to with the big crowd, I felt at a certain point, sort of toward in the beginning of my third round, I sort of started feeling this because my second round went really well. But in my third round, I felt like I'd lost the crowd, and so for the whole thing, I was just trying to give it more and more and more to try and bring them back. But then afterwards, when I was speaking to people, apparently that wasn't the case at all. But that was how I was perceiving it going on stage. So when I got off, it was a real shock to me that people had enjoyed it as much as they did. And then the more people that you speak to, the more people that sort of come up and tell you that they enjoyed it, the more you go, oh, maybe that did start to go really well. So it wasn't sort of like it was really nice to, because sometimes you sort of get off stage and you're sort of quite bitter. You're like, they were sleeping. They weren't really paying attention. So it was really nice to have it the other way, where you go, I didn't think that went so well, and then to have your happiness with the battle grow rather than decrease after the battle, which is usually the way it goes, if I'm being completely honest.
Definitely. And so one of my friends, the only friend I've ever managed to get into battle rap, he lives in Sweden and he's become a huge battle rap fan. But he so the Apex battle of yours was the first battle of yours that he's ever watched, and
Mm.
it was interesting because I remember him saying to me that he, with a lot of battlers in the UK, like he he'll react every so often kind of thing. Whereas with yourself, he he didn't find that he was reacting to like every few bars and stuff, because he said the hearing your accent is how they hear English people speak on TV and things like that. And he said it just drew him in as if you were kind of telling a story. So and I can kind of see what he means in that sense. Like it's not like listening to Raptor or Shocks or someone like that where it's aggressive and every few bars is a punch. Like you're you're really easy to listen to in that sense, and it's I think that might kind of be why the crowd were like, if it makes sense, like it might be why the crowd weren't reacting to some points of your material and stuff as much as you hope that they were, because
Mm.
it's you're very easy to listen to, and that people don't want to stop you.
Well, I sometimes think that. Sometimes I think, because I'm so basically the main thing driving the style that I've got is I'm absolutely obsessed with the the English language, essentially, and I have been for pretty much as long as I can remember. My undergraduate degree was in English literature and language. My master's degree was in law, which is very much picking apart language and finding and stuff like that. So it's I'm very sort of focused on that, and so sometimes I get frustrated because what I'm trying to do is, yeah, you're absolutely right. You say like telling a story. I always try and work some form of a narrative arc in. And the Dean battle, there's if you, I don't know, this is the problem, right? Nobody. I was talking to Yunnan about this in Dublin. Nobody ever knows how much thought you've put into what's going on there. But there is a very clear, in my mind, tactically thought through narrative arc to sort of try and build up. So if I can break it down for you quite quickly now. In fact, in the first round, I'm speaking about his the way that the battle came about. In the second round, between the dynamic between us. In the third round, in the second round, I'm speaking about the dynamic between him and the league. And then in the third round, I'm sort of bringing it all together whilst trying to just outpunch him. So I was sort of frustrated in the third round because I thought that in the third round, I was sort of like, Kenricker's going to haymaker. And people were sort of, I think I'd given them too much narrative in the first two rounds. So they weren't expecting the sort of slight stylistic switch up in the third. And so it didn't land the way that I wanted it to. But it was, I'm really glad that you've said the sort of storytelling aspect, because that's really a big part of something that I'm trying to work into and work into my writing. But it sometimes overshadows the amount of wordplay that I'm stuffing in there, because there's always seems to be a fair amount that people aren't picking up on when I'm rapping, and maybe that's just because it's too subtle. It's not pronounced enough, and that's a fault on my part. But sometimes I think it's because people aren't sort of like listening for it there, because usually you can tell when a battle is coming to a punchline, right? It builds and it builds to a point, whereas I'm sort of trying to do it constantly, and then when I sort of try and build to a sort of, not to a big punchline so much as a big idea. And I don't know, maybe I'm overanalyzing things, but it's the way that
No,
I work.
definitely. And I think that it's very there's a lot of similarities with Madflex. I find that Madflex is his kind of cadence and the way that he puts things together with his material is very different to anybody else. And like when I watch Madflex, I find it difficult to react because I don't want to stop him. And
Yeah.
do you know what? You and Madflex, actually, it's just come to me now, but that's something I'd really like to see on a little off note there. But yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, and I do find the same with yourself. Like everything, you have not schemes as such, but you have these long pieces of material where everything is connected. And yeah, I think if the crowd were cutting you off every few bars, you know, it would kind of come across like, off the top of my head, like when Soul battled Raptor. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not a great example because it kind of adds to the feel of the battle, but at the same time, it would have been great to have heard Soul been allowed to have just got through all that material in one go, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Saul's a different beast though, man. Like because with him, it's like I think Soul is potentially the most complete battler. Like that, well, not certainly in the UK scene. I was about to say ever, but actually that's probably not quite true. But in the sense of humor, the way he schemes, you know, the way he ties ideas together, people say that Soul's not got charisma. Soul has got a lot of charisma, in my opinion. It's one of the biggest things. I think I said it to a couple of people before on like podcasts and stuff. People say that there aren't enough characters in battle rap. It annoys me that the big loud bastard is what we consider character to be, because I think the Soul's a great character. This kind of quiet sort of, you know, he's very quiet. You would sort of assume him to be take him to be unassuming and shy. You know, that is a character in of itself. It doesn't just mean being the loudest guy in the room being a character. I think it's so much more interesting to have this variety in that way. So when people say that he's not got charisma, he's not got character, I don't really know what they're talking about. But, you know, I mean, I would say delivery was definitely something that he lacked back in the day. But I would say he's pretty much sorted that out. And there's something about that Scottish accent which really underlies his delivery and really elevates it. I don't know what it is, but it sounds sick in a Scottish accent, and it lets him get some strange rhymes that other people, you know, from England perhaps wouldn't be able to get, which gives a level of unpredictability. And he's kind of a different beast, man, because when you've got all those different things, the narrative, the punchlines, the scheming, the cadence, all are happening at the same time, it's so difficult to not react every single time you hear something. Because it's not like it slips
No.
you by either. Even when you don't quite get the punch the first time, you know that he's been doing something. It's just you didn't quite get it. I'm really in awe of Soul as a battler, to be honest.
Me too. And yeah, I see what you mean as well. Like with the Raptor battle, for example, I think it's the start of his second round where he's talking about Raptors, you and I versus universe kind of bar against Big Cannon.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember him saying a bar about how obviously it's a title match, and he said something like, "I'm the champ, I'm out of this world, but I don't owe Ryan's belt." And I remember catching that and being like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." But then about, you know, a few bars later, he says he's talking about how he battled Briggsy.
Mm.
And he finishes it with, "I ran rings around your gas, and now it's your SA turn." And
Yeah.
I remember not clocking that whatsoever, and then watching it like a couple of times down, like through the years, and then finally clocking it on like the fourth watch and being like, Jesus Christ, how have I missed that? Like and I find that often with Soul, to be fair. I agree, he's definitely the best all round battler in the UK, in my opinion.
I mean, do you remember? I'm pretty sure that his setup to that as well was to the test 10. You watch, you got your sensei served, and that's just it's such a sick way of phrasing. I beat the guy that kind of brought you into the scene, you know. And there are so many boring ways of saying that, but you got your sensei served, and then to rhyme it with the great crazy punch, your SA turn, you know, is every detail. It's just more crafted than most other battlers. it was really it's a joy. It's a joy to watch.
Definitely. And like it's so great to hear. Like one thing that has really surprised me since I've been doing this show. So I started last Wednesday, but I've kind of been doing like 3 to 4 episodes every day and spoken to a variety of people. But like it's I've spoken to quite a few people now from America and Canada, and it's sort of surprised me how into our scene that they really are over there.
Mm.
And everybody mentions Sol.
Yeah,
And
he's global rep at this point, man. Like, well, maybe not global, but you know what I mean.
even to the point where you may have noticed recently that Pat Stays started doing like online interviews with people and putting them on YouTube. And he did one with
I've seen it,
Organic.
but I've not seen it. Yeah.
They're quite fun to watch if you do have some spare time. But he did one with Organic, and Organic was Pat asked him who he feels has the potential to be a battle rap star, and I think Organic's first answer was Sol. And it was like it's just so great to hear. And like just in terms of some of the other things that have been said, like are you much of an iBattle fan at all?
I've seen some iBattle stuff. To be honest, I watched maybe 3 or 4 battles the other week, and that was the most battle rap I've watched in quite a long time outside of live events. The last couple of years I've just been insanely busy, and I've sort of just kind of I've kind of got my finger off the pulse a little bit. But I mean, iBattle that was Mike Peever Stone Chapman on iBattle, wasn't it? That's Lex's league, right? So
Yeah, that's it.
yeah, yeah. So I've seen a few iBattle battles, but my understanding is they've got their whole own sort of roster that's doing really, really well. But I've not really had time to delve into it, if I'm honest.
I think they are my favorite league to watch at the moment because there's so many reasons. Like they don't release bad matchups. Every battle that they release is amazing, and the everybody at the events is so supportive, and it looks like a really like fun time event, if that makes sense. And also like I like how they're building for the culture in the sense that they've made an app. I think their app came before the URL app, and it's 10 times better than the URL one. The functionality is good on it. They're engaging with the fans all the time. They obviously put the pay-per-view for the Broken Resolutions event on their pay-per-view site as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've actually got the app, but it was only so I could get that really.
Right.
But I've not really. Yeah, I really should, man. I really should. I should take some time because apart from anything else, theoretically, I mean, it was meant to be sooner, but I've had to postpone because of this COVID scenario. But I'm meant to be going out to America. I for about half a year or so I lived in Connecticut, and I'm meant to be going back and visiting my friends and stuff like that I made out there. And I was thinking about doing it sometime next year. And I sort of thought, dude, if you're going to be in America, you might as well sort of hit up 1 or 2 of these leagues and see if they'd have you on. And if you're going to be on the East Coast, I sort of because Lex runs out of New York, I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, I think their events are either operated from Staten Island or Brooklyn, so both New York, but
Yeah,
they're Connecticut's obviously really close by, isn't it, in that sense? And
hour or two
they
in
would,
the car.
yeah, and they definitely have you on, man. I mean, Canal's been over there, and
Yeah, not that old.
yes, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've not. I must admit, I've not seen the battle, but I've seen it promoted and I've heard very good things about it.
Yeah, it's good fun, man, and
But,
they've done like a big online tournament recently with the whole COVID thing, and like there's a tournament where the battler that wins will get $1,000 and things like that. And Nugget from Ireland is actually currently in the semi-finals. But Visual was in the tournament, Canal was in the tournament, and then some pretty big names like Marv One was in there, King Jables, Laugh&Stalk, and it's just been really fun to watch. But I know Podge, Viz, quite a few battlers have arranged stuff with them for what was meant to be in the near future. So if you do go over there, man, then they'd be happy to have you, I'm sure, and it'd be great to see you on there.
Well, I'll tell you what, you can have a bit of a scoop if you want, a bit of a daily dose scoop. Tried to set me up for the Shrewsbury second event versus Lex, but he wasn't having it. And then Yunnan got the battle instead, but then Lex had a problem with his passport or something like that, so he couldn't make it over. But yeah, that was originally meant to be Lazy versus Lex, not Yunnan versus Lex. So I think he probably booked me, just because he doesn't want to battle me. It doesn't mean that he doesn't necessarily want to book me. But that would be the only thing that makes me think maybe he wouldn't. But we'll see.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't think he's really on battling. I think it has to be a big name for him to take it.
Yeah.
And they are kind of doing like 2 events a month, I think. So I think he's a bit too busy to take it unless it's someone that he's really motivated for. And I think Yunnan, I think they were booked back in the Don't Flop days before, so maybe he's just got some old material lying around that made it easier for him. I'm not sure, man, but it's I'd love to see you on that league. But I spoke to I've spoken to a few members of the iBattle roster now, and I've been asking people what their top 5 matchups that they really want are, and a guy called Jack Casserole, I think his second answer was Frankie Fraser. And obviously to me,
nice.
Well, to us over here, we all know how good Frankie is, and he's slept on even over here. So to hear an American name say, yeah, I really want Frankie Fraser, it hit me for 6 a bit at the time, and I didn't know what to say. But it's so great to hear that they support our scene like that, and they know. And I always expected them to just go, yeah, I'm a Shotty fan, or I'm a Tony fan, or I'm a Soul fan, but they know most people over here, and it's been really cool to hear in that sense. But if we do skip to that question, who do you want? Who interests you at the moment?
Oh God. Well, so I've got a battle theoretically booked, really far in advance actually, but I'm not 100% sure I can say anything about that. So I've got that, which I'm supposed to be keeping myself focused on. To be honest, what I'm finding now is that when people started taking notice of me, because when I was first started battling, I was battling a lot, maybe once a month or something like that. And now I'm battling maybe 2-3 times a year. Just doing a lot for my stock, to be honest. Actually taking the time to, really think and take my time over these things rather than rushing through it. I don't know. It's not. There are no names in particular that I really want. It's a style of person I really want. What I want is somebody that does a similar style to me, but traditionally has been held in a slightly higher regard. When you've got a bit of a style clash, there's always a way into a style clash, right? When it's somebody who does something similar to you, you just got to both do what you do and see who does it best. So, how realistic are we talking about here? If the battle that I really want, and I've always wanted and have said, if I could get this battle, then I'd probably leave it there because I'm not sure what else there would be for me. But I've always wanted to battle Tony. He's probably my favorite battler ever, right. From the UK. And also, he's always been really massively supportive of me. So shout out Tony. But we probably never do it. So I don't know how realistic we're being. If we're talking about people overseas, ellipsis. People have been kicking around the idea of me and ellipsis for a while. I love that battle, but I really love. I mean, these are some I battle guys actually. I really like Diego Davalo, and I really like Homeschool. I kind of want to battle a nerdy wordplay guy. Essentially, is what I'm getting at. Because I
Yeah.
think that would be one of those kinds of battles. Um, I would love to battle Dunch, but I'm not trying to die, so I'm probably, I mean, if it got offered to me, like I'd take it. But who beats Dunch? Like, if Dunch decides he wants to win, like what do you do about that? There's probably nothing.
Yeah.
But he's
Yeah.
actually one of my absolute favorites out at the moment. Dunch, man, he's an exceptional talent.
100%.
Absolutely
100%. I'm
exceptional.
a huge fan. And yeah, I mean, for me, homeschool and ellipsis are the two that immediately jump to mind for you, just because, as you said, they're both pretty similar.
Mm, mm.
But yeah, I mean, when I've been asking that question, I've said you get two just dream matchups that are like the end goal, and like three matchups that you want in the near future, if that makes sense. And I think I think Tony D has been on everyone's list so far.
Absolutely. I mean, who doesn't want to battle Tony? It's such a test. It's like you really find out. That's like well, that's what it is. I want a sink or swim battle, and Tony is the ultimate UK sink or swim battle, and he's been used in that. He had that. Was it against Shocks? Who was it? He's well, what am I like? Like the
The
gatekeeper for the
doorman to the
title match.
title shot. Yeah,
Yeah, like that was you put it so well. That's what Tony's for. It's sort of like, right, like if you can hang with Tony, you can have your moment in the sun. And so yeah, I mean, I don't think that battle will ever happen, but if it did, I'd be a very happy boy.
definitely. And I like it. I think it would make sense. And he's he's always been quite vocal about how much of a fan he is of yours as well. So it's not something that I'd rule out from happening. But I don't know. I don't know how much Tony really wants to battle often at the moment. Obviously, he took a long time out and came back for Serious Jones, which he was great in, but unfortunately, there's just not a lot of replay value there, and it's a
God,
difficult
yeah,
one.
I did watch that battle. I did watch that battle. I've not watched a huge amount of battles, but recently, but I did watch that. And Jesus Christ, dude, like Serious Jones, dude, if you're getting bodied ignominiously, just shut up when the other dude is rapping and just take it on the chin, right? Because you can't even really rewatch Tony's rounds because he's interrupting him so much. And Tony was having a crazy performance. But like you say, the rewatchability is all kinds of buggered up. It's not even like a watchable body. Some body bags are great fun to watch. Ricky C in Crisis Music versus Dialect and Zen. I
Yeah,
I think there's a room in heaven somewhere where that's just playing on a loop. It's absolutely glorious to watch. But that's not even an enjoyable body bag to watch. It's just awkward and weird. Yeah.
mate, I can tell you it was 10 times more awkward in the room when at the
Yeah.
end. So there's probably about 15 people on the stage behind them, right? And Serious Jones at the end of the battle talks to the crowd and says to them, "Look, I'm really sorry. I have never choked before. I need to get this out for my reputation. I'm going to read it off my phone." And he starts reading it off his phone, and you can literally see everyone on the stage just slowly sneaking themselves off the stage. And by the time that he'd finished reading his material, he's the only person on the stage. And have you been to the Steel Yard?
No, I've never been to Steelyard, which is a shame actually, because the events that have been down there have all been pretty marquee events.
Yeah, but it's kind of the stage area is you go through some arches into the stage, and like the crowd is stood in a separate room, if that makes sense. So you've got the stage and the crowd in a separate room, and then the bar is kind of through the other side of the building. And
Okay.
by the point that he's finished reading stuff off his phone, He's the only one on stage, and there is, I would probably say, about 4 people left just stood there watching him. And I don't think he noticed the entire time, and you just kind of see him look up, see that everybody's walked out, and you just see the shock on his face. Like, it's one of the weirdest things that I've ever experienced.
You know, I said this before. I said before URL came to the UK. I posted somewhere. I can't remember what I said. I said, are they aware of the fact that British fans don't boo? We just leave in silence. Because that, if you don't know that that's what British fans do, that must be the most unsettling thing. I mean, I feel like, dude, it's a shame that we almost don't have the webcam running, because I was just cringing up with you telling me that story there. But I almost feel sorry for the dude, man. That must have been a really nasty feeling for him when he looked up. Do you know
what? Because I could I was ordering a drink by the time he'd finished his stuff, and like, I felt sorry for him to the point where I nearly walked in and clapped him, but I probably would have got abused by everybody there, and I didn't know what to do for the guy. Like, he kind of walked off stage after, and he came, like, coming off the stage, there's stairs that lead into the room where the bar is and where everybody had kind of gathered, and you have to walk through everybody to then get back up to like the green room area. And he got off these steps and just kind of, he had his sunglasses on the whole battle anyway, but he just kind of put his hood up and made his way through the people without even acknowledging that anyone was there, and went straight upstairs. And it was strange, like really strange. But yeah, I mean,
to be honest, I saw him battle Respect BA. Like, we all knew this was going to happen. We didn't know it was going to be that bad, but we all knew that was going to be an ignominious body bag from the drop, when the card dropped.
Yeah, and it was. I feel like it was a strange decision to have booked him anyway, because I don't know anybody. I've never heard anyone in the UK ever say, I'm a serious Jones fan. Like, everybody appreciates him because he's been there from the start, but even most of the battles he's won because his opponent's been bad.
Yeah. I mean, like, you know, there's a difference between being a fixture of battle rap and being a proponent of it, right? You know, and he's very much a fixture. You know, I feel bad for the dude, but I really think that he's not translated into the modern era at all. And either he would really sort of reconsider what the way he approaches battles, or maybe it's time to say, you know what, I did a lot for this culture, but maybe it's time to knock it on the head.
Yeah, I mean, I did see he tweeted something like a couple of hours after the battle saying, I fucked up. I really want to repay the UK fans and Premier Battles. Like, I'm going to come back for another event in a couple of years and pay for everything myself and put on a show, which, if he does, I'll have the utmost respect for him, to be honest, because it shows that he's passionate, and like he regrets it and wasn't just taking it for the holiday kind of thing. But I think there must have been an element of that to it, to be honest. He must have just thought, gets me to the UK for a few days, it will be fine.
Yeah. It's which is weird when you think about how much everybody in the UK is trying to get out of it permanently. But, you know, a holiday's a holiday, I guess. Yeah,
man. But I mean, for yourself, what would you say is your favourite battle that you've been a part of so far?
My favourite battle that I've been a part of, bloody hell, but like I say, the A battle is the one that I sort of look back on as probably the most fun. The Carl French battle I just did. I mean, I've always got a habit of saying this, just in the immediate aftermath of these battles. But the Carl French battle, there was like that was a really good vibe to that battle as well. I think the A battle has got to be everything came together there. It was the first performance I'd given where I was like genuinely proud of myself for what I'd done. I
No,
loved
I get that, and I remember really enjoying the battle when I saw it, and obviously it's unfortunately gone now. But I am right in saying it was in the park, wasn't it? UNA.
No. It was in the actual venue. It was in Fiddlers. I've only battled in a park once, and that was against Blunt Ted, and I was like my third solo battle.
Okay, I could be thinking about JB versus A now that I think about it. I'm getting
Oh, who was it?
you, JB, and
A
A
did
all
battle.
mixed up around somewhere, but I remember seeing you versus A and thinking it was a great battle, and then you and JB were meant to battle for like a training day's title or something. Is that correct?
At next in line too. Yeah, so basically it was like meant to be a training day's title, and then the whole schism with Don't Flop started to happen, and then Danny messages JB and I saying, well guys, look, this seems like training days isn't going to be saying much anymore. Craig and I are going to be starting this league called Code Red. How do you fancy about this being the Code Red title match? And we both said, that sounds great. Let's do that instead. And then it was so weird because we even did like a Battle Rappers Made promo interview and stuff like that. And I turned up on the day, locked, loaded, ready to go, and hours go by and he's not there. Hours go by and he's not there. And then this guy who works with JB's brother or something like that comes up to me and he says, "Look, I've just heard through the grapevine that he's not coming. He hadn't written material for you. He's not coming." And it's sort of annoying, right? Like I think that no showing is a sort of dickhead move. Obviously for all the obvious reasons. But if you've got to a point where you know that you're not going to be writing for this, it's not like something's come up or you've bottled it on the day. You've known for a few days in advance. Like I would have still come to that event just to watch, etc. So that's not what I'm annoyed about. I'm annoyed about the sort of making me wait around sort of thing. The willful lack of communication. I just think it's kind of a bitch move. I don't really give a fuck about the battle too much. I just think that JB is kind of a bitch for letting somebody waste their time like that. It's only battle rap. It's not that deep. But I think it says quite a bit about you as a person.
No, completely. I do agree, and I mean, I'm pretty sure I've seen recently that JB's about to come back. And
he had was it Soweto Kinch he was meant to battle in a comeback for Don't Flop or something like that.
No, I'm pretty sure that's happened. He's meant to come back on Premier Battles, I think.
Oh shit! Yes, you're right. You are absolutely right.
I can't remember who it's against. I seem to remember it being Bizzo.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But I mean, for me, Bizzo's on a rise. I like Bizzo at the moment. I think he's been good and consistent in the last year of the academy. But I think if we're so open to inviting these people back into the scene that are no show in battles, they start from the bottom, because we've seen it recently with Koj. Koj has no showed that many battles now that he's probably cost Premier Battles alone a ton of money. And for him to just go, oh, I fancy stepping in the ring again, and them giving him someone like LS Dean, who is one of their kind of hottest properties in that sense. It doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. And I know Koj's good, but he doesn't deserve to get matchups like that. Like that was a headlining battle on that card. Why is he headlining events?
It's so frustrating, man, and especially when I remember him battling Frankie Fraser. It was meant to be my first Don't Flop main channel battle against Shorgy Bear. It was at the one of the side rooms at the Roundhouse in Camden, and on 24 hours he battled Frankie Fraser, and then he turned up and he killed it. It's like, how can you on 24 hours make it down from Manchester to battle someone But then you've got months and months to prep for Mike P, who's flying out from America, and you bought what? How? It's like two different. Like you're dealing with two different people.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And like, I don't know if you were aware of this, but at the All-Star event that we were talking about then, Koj and LS Dean was actually meant to be a surprise battle on that card.
Yeah, I heard that.
And I think Koj pulled out of that one with not maybe a couple of days notice or something like that, because he might have even pulled out the morning of, because when I got into London, I met a few people in like, so there's a Weatherspoons in, I think it's Liverpool Street Station maybe, that's close to the Steel Yard. And
Yeah, I know the spoons that you're on about. Yeah.
I met a few people there, and people were saying, oh, the surprise battle that was announced. In fact, no, that's it. So Briggsy said something the morning of the event on the forum to say that there was a surprise battle, and I wasn't in the forum at the time, so I didn't know. And they were saying, yeah, apparently it's going to be Koj versus LS Dean, and then everyone got to the event and nothing ended up happening. So it was like he's cancelled so many battles last minute that I'm sick to death of seeing these people get just handed opportunities again. I think they need to start from the bottom if they want to be involved, and if they refuse, then good riddance kind of thing, because we can't keep allowing it to happen.
No, exactly. It's, I mean, and it's such a shame as well, because as you say, Koj is obviously incredibly talented. So you sort of just wish that you'd sort of match your action, and then you've got a great asset to the battle rap scene. But it doesn't matter how good you are if you don't turn up to the battle. That's a shit battle. It's not a battle at all. So it's difficult to. I'm 100% with you. I'm not saying that they need to like start at the bottom and then you get a mid-tier guy, etc., etc. Put a few battles together where you show that you're consistent and willing to turn up. Like Yunnan has had one of the most convincing returns to battle rap ever in the last sort of 6 months or so.
Yeah.
And it's because he's got his passion back, he's got his grip back. When nobody was talking about. So I remember, because I was his comeback battle, right? And I remember on the day of the battle, people saying, like I wouldn't bother going to the venue if I were you, Jack. Like, just don't bother, because there's no way he's showing up for that. And I was like, well, to be honest, it's only an hour or so from my house. Like, I'm gonna go. I've been booked. I'm gonna turn up. I'm not gonna not turn up. And so I got there, and he wasn't there. And sort of an hour or so goes by, and he's still not there. And I'm going, Jesus Christ! And I go up to her, and I say to him, is he coming? And he said, yeah, he is. He's on the coach now. I've made him turn on his Snapchat location so I can see where he is. He's on his way. And it just turned out he was just stuck in traffic. And since that battle, I don't think, because then what was it after that? Then it was then it was Bobby Rex, then it was Raptor. And by the time it came out to his battle in Islands, nobody was doubting, like, oh, is this guy turn up? He proved that he cared again.
Yeah.
But then nobody was. Oh, sorry.
No, man, not at all. And I don't put Yunnan in the same category as Koj, in the sense that when Yunnan backed out of the tally battle, he let them know weeks in advance. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see that as that's dropping out, but giving the promoters enough time to work with it. That's not no showing with no communication. And
yeah, I think Yunnan gets quite quite a harsh time of it, to be honest, in the way that people portray him, man. Like, that guy had to grow up on camera. Yeah, some dumb stuff, blah blah blah. He did his first battle when he was 17. I'd like to see anybody keep a clean record. Have you ever spent any time in Western?
say again, sorry, man, it cut up slightly there. Did you say, have I ever spent time with Yunnan?
Yeah. Have you ever spent like at an event? Have you ever spoken to him or anything like that?
Yeah, I spent a bit of time with him after. Oh, what event was it? It was a long time ago now. It was a Don't Flop event where he battled Big T.
Oh,
I
God.
think it was a
Yeah. What
checkpoint.
event was that? I think it might have been that too. Was this event where German dialect, wasn't it?
Yes, that's the one. Yeah. So
Yeah. But
it
but
was.
my point is,
I think the connection
you
might
still
have
there?
dropped on your end, man. It keeps cutting up.
Really? Do you want me to try and move somewhere else, maybe? Uh,
I think that's
let me
clearer.
see.
That should be fine now, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the point I was trying to make there is like, if you met him in person, do you recognize him from the way that people characterize him on the forums and stuff? No.
No.
The people that sling his name around like that are really buying into the battle rap narratives way too much. Like anybody who's met him knows that he's not that kind of guy, really.
No. When I met him, he was one of the. He's one of the like the soundest people that you can meet as a fan at a battle event. Like he talks to fans off his own back. He comes across a really nice and genuine guy, and I I think fans in general get too involved in the behind the scenes bullshit in battle rap. Like me personally, I hated how everybody got involved in the whole versus Kruger Bagnall thing, like to the point where
Mm.
I've still not watched full battle rap resume all the way through because I don't care enough to sit there for 3.5 hours and listen about that. Like they can sort that out behind the scenes, and I hope Kruger. Don't get me wrong, I hope Kruger gets his money or whatever it is that the full issue was about, but like it just I don't. People are more fixated on the negatives in battle rap than they are in what's going on in the scene, and it's the reason why until recently when I've started this podcast, I've not been in the forums because they just annoy me, and it's just
Yeah,
it's a sloppy
I've been out of
scene,
those
man.
as well. Absolutely, politics is not what I'm there for. And
No,
also anybody whose main interaction with battle rap is in the live events, those are the people that really seem to, uh, those are the people that really speak highly of it. I think the further away you are from the live events in terms of your engagement, the more negatively you're going to look on the scene.
no, definitely, I do agree, and like I love battle rap events, man. It's one of the like I was obsessed with the scene for a long time as a kid, and from my first event, it's just I think I must have been to upwards of 50 events, 60 events or so now, and I live in Cardiff, so only two of them have ever been local, and I always go on my own. I think there's only been one occasion where I've not been to an event on my own, and like I always just get chatting to so many people, and I love how inclusive the scene is in that sense, and everybody's friendly. But when it's outside of an event, I switch off a lot nowadays.
Absolutely. I don't blame you. I do exactly the same thing, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but I mean, what would you say is like just going back to the questions anyway, without focusing on weirdos in battle rap, I guess. But
Yeah,
what would you say
yeah.
is like your least favorite battle that you've been a part of then?
Oh my God. Okay, there is absolutely no debate about this in my mind. My least favorite battle I've ever been a part of. There was at the event where Tony D battled Dialect. I was meant to do a 2-on-2 with Bear Solutions, and we were meant to battle Mac Sherry and Problematic. We're halfway to Leeds, driving up from London. And obviously for Bear, he's already taken a train from Cambridge to London, met me in London, got in the car, and we're driving up. And we get a message after how 2 hours or so in the car. Not at the point where we're going to turn around and go back. Sorry guys, I went out last night. I overslept and I've missed my coach. I'm not making it, from Mac. And Problematic is already on his way to Leeds. And so we get to Leeds and Problematic's there. And he's like, guys, look, let's get somebody to step in and be my partner. We're all here. And I'm like, no, we're not all here, are we? If we were all here, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. Three out of four of us are here. And so, I'm very much pushing for not doing this battle. Problematic is really pushing for it. And Bear is sort of on the fence, but eventually he kind of comes to the idea of, because he'd been no-showed so many times, he goes, to be honest, I'd really just like to get a battle in. And I say, dude, it's not going to be good. Just battling for the sake of battling is not a good thing for your stock or the way people are going to think about you. Anyway, eventually I cave in and Hulk steps in. And Hulk and Problematic, obviously Problematic's material that he's got written still works perfectly because he's still battling the same people that he thought he was going to battle. Our material doesn't really work at all because we've only got one half of the opponent that we thought we were going to do. And Hulk is a great freestyler, so he's contributing to that. And it was so awkward. And also Mickey refused to put it on, on the main card. He said, look, if you guys really want to do it, you can do it after the event in the back room. You're not doing it on stage. And so after everybody's watched this incredible Tony D versus Dialect battle, we've got to go into the back room and do this abysmally shit battle, which is awkward, where we're getting bodied despite having put quite a lot of effort in. We really tried to sort of work on bouncing off each other, and all that sort of stuff. And then it all got reduced to absolute crap because of the circumstances. And to be honest, actually, we were very inexperienced as battlers then. Looking back on it, the material was dog shit too, so I'm not surprised. But everything about it, the awkwardness. I remember at one point, Villain was at the back of the room, and he was I started doing really ironic she's and all that sort of stuff. And it was just the most humiliating, embarrassing thing that I've ever done in battle rap. And I absolutely hated every moment of it. From finding out that he wasn't coming. And it's especially when it's at that point, I was kind of on a rise. Bear was kind of on a rise. We were only taking it because we wanted to, go to the event. Really, we don't need to battle fucking Mac Sherry and Problematic. So it was no. From the setup to the performance. I hated everything about that battle.
Yeah, man, and I remember thinking, because I've wanted to try out in battle rap for as long as I can remember. I've always been a bit too busy to ever actually take it seriously. So I've never got round to it. And I never wanted my first battle to be rushed or anything. I wanted to really give it a go if I was going to try. But I very nearly tried out on King of the Ronalds a few years ago. And
oh, really?
Yeah, luckily my opponent pulled out quite far in advance, but I'd kind of just polished off my second round kind of thing when I found out maybe 10 days before that he wasn't going to be there, and it was only booked I think 2 weeks before the event, and it just, the more I thought about it, the more I thought trying out on King of the Ronalds has got to be the most risky thing to do, in the sense of you never know what the fuck is going to happen when you get to that venue. And I mean, I think in that sense, I think you might have been quite lucky in the sense that that's the worst experience that you've had, I guess. Don't get me wrong, it's a shit experience to have gone through, but I mean, I can imagine there's quite a few horror stories from King of the Ronalds, to be fair to him.
Oh yeah. I mean, here's the thing, right? The good thing about King of the Ronalds is most of us have the wherewithal to laugh at it. But I mean, I don't know. Do you ever remember that guy, Arid Fool?
I don't think I do.
Okay, give yourself a treat. Give yourself a treat. I can't remember who it was you battled. It might have been Canal. When you've got a moment, go watch Arid Fool. It's like this guy's a cartoon. You can't believe he's a real person. But the best thing about it all was that he started going off on these, like fuck battle rap, fuck King of the Ronalds, fuck everybody involved, because we were laughing at him, not with him, sort of thing. But then after he went on this whole thing of fuck all of us, every now and then he just sort of tag you in like his latest musical release, which was like not even rap music. It was like him with a guitar and really strange. It was, I don't know, but he was a special character, like and I think that he had a really bad battle rap experience. But it's seriously, it's very, very funny. I highly recommend that you go watch Arid Fool.
Definitely. And with all that said, I was a huge King of the Ronalds fan. I found it so entertaining. But I remember there being a few characters like that, like even just watching on YouTube and not really going to many of the events. But Mr. Switch, I think his name was, he battled Mickey quite early on.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Had like a really weird haircut from what I remember of him, but he just came across as an absolute bellend the whole battle. And I think he tried to. It's been years since I watched it. It must be about 6 years ago now. But I think he might have gone for Mickey at some point in Mickey's third, and it like I just loved King of the Ronalds, man. It was just such chaos that it was great.
No, I look back on King of the Ronalds so much, man, with so fondly. I tell you what, man, that final King of the Ronalds event, I really didn't want to battle on it, but eventually, I think it was like 3 or 4 times they tried to book that battle. I said no, and eventually I was like, oh, fine, fuck it. I mean, and actually, yeah, it is, and I think it's in my second round. I sort of explain, why I'm even there in the first place. I just wanted to go as a fan because literally I battled LSD on the 7th, and then the King of the Ronalds event was on the 14th, so it was literally a week apart. And I wrote my material and memorized it like the night before, etc. But aside from that, that final King of the Ronalds event was there was no drama, nothing kicked off, so it was kind of a unique Ronalds event in that sense. But it
I
was
can imagine it was quite emotional, man.
it was a little bit, Mickey was definitely emotional. Mickey was pretty emotional, but he was also his old usual self. Um, he just, even when I remember he was. I won't go into the details of what we were talking about because it's like his business, not mine. But we were having a bit of a sort of deep conversation about his life, and even when he's trying to be at his absolute most sincere, like he can't help but being hilarious. Just the way that he is just inherently funny. And
Yeah.
so it was this really melancholy sort of feeling that yes, it's ending, but also there's nothing. But I've got no. So even looking back on that that doubles battle, which was easily the worst battle rap experience I've ever got ever had. The event as a whole, I remember very fondly. It was just my battle that I detested, So and also, these guys, I don't think many leagues would have given me a shot, but they were so, some tall, posh, bespectacled, gangly Oxford nerd. Like not many people think, yeah, that's the guy that could be the face of our league. And then, eventually they were so welcoming and accepting for me. I ended up, being the title holder for a bit. It's I, I've got yeah I've got such fond memories of that league.
No, of course, man. And I loved it as well. Like I said with iBattle, iBattle I've become a big fan of just because the footage looks great because it's such like a tight knit community. Like they look like they spend time with each other outside of battle events and stuff, and they're all really good friends. And like,
Yeah,
wow, for
absolutely.
the sake of describing King of the Ronalds, like I'd say iBattle comes across like a proper family, and then you've got King of the Ronalds, which it was a very dysfunctional family feeling, but it was a family feeling to those events, man. And it was everybody like it was always the same people that were front row of these events, and you could tell that they loved it.
Absolutely, man. We had some real hardcore fans. We had some people that really would ride and die for King of the Ronalds.
Yeah, man. And I really like the Hulk battle. I think it's I think both of you kind of mentioned after, from what I saw, that you're not overly happy with the performances, but I like it. I think it is a really good battle from both of you actually, and it's certainly one of the most, I'd say, kind of competitive battles on King of the Ronalds in that sense. Like you're both, you can tell it's kind of short prep, but you're both good, and I really enjoyed it.
Well, I quite enjoyed because basically I was sort of like, look, you haven't got. Usually when I sort of book a battle, my first sort of thought is like, right, how many double, think about what it is that you want to say to this guy, and then think about how many words there are with double meanings, etc., that you can exploit, which is to do with those topics. But obviously, when you've got 7 days to do that, you're never going to do it to any kind of a standard. So I just sort of thought like, I'm just going to take the piss a little bit, and it was quite fun to do like a funnier battle than I would ordinarily do.
Yeah, no, of
Yeah.
course, and I'm a massive fan of Hulk as well. And do you know what? I'd quite like to get your opinion here actually, because I I had a lot of people disagree with me with this recently, but um, when I rejoined the forum to kind of promote this podcast, one of the first posts I saw was Big J saying how everybody loves Hulk now, but back in the day everybody said he was shit and whatever. And like I've never thought Hulk was shit, but the thing with Hulk was for me is that because he had such a key part in King of the Ronalds, he was taking so many battles that were just nothing battles, and like he'd battle someone, he'd even battle tryouts just to fill the cards. I
Yeah.
think it was hard for people to get on board with Hulk, whereas now that he's carefully selecting his battles and showing up to some of the like the best of his ability, it shows that he is like he's one of the best battlers in our scene, and do you agree with that?
I agree that he's a fantastic battler, etc. But I do remember even the pre King of the Ronalds days, when he was battling, on Don't Floor. Was it did he battle? Oh God, who was that short little weird guy from Manchester who was absolutely dog shit? Um, God, I can't remember his name. But he was. I remember the Hulk battled him at like outside somewhere. And I remember in the judging, Im said, like, but look, he said, like, I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Hulk is nice with it. But actually, I do remember back in the day when even before King of the Rods, there was a bit of a consensus that Hulk was a bit shit. And I think because I didn't really understand in like the sort of nascency of my sort of interest of the battle rap scene, I think I kind of just went along with what people said, and I thought he was. But actually, ever since I've been able to cultivate my own opinions on this stuff, I've thought Hulk's great. He's got believability. He knows how to rap. He's got great presence, and he's got really good punchlines. Some of which aren't even punchlines. Like he had that bar against Chrome, which was I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was like, I remember he'd analyzed the texture of the hemoglobin, and it wasn't like wordplay or anything like that. It wasn't a punchline per se, but it just hit. You know what I mean? He's really good at that, just saying stuff that makes you screw face, even though you're not 100% sure why.
Yeah, I do agree, and like for me, it's there has been other things in Hulk's kind of battle rap career, I suppose I'd say, but like that hasn't helped. I mean, teaming up with Snipery was never gonna help, but
Yeah.
he's like he's I don't know. I remember one of the first times I got to see Hulk battle was because he was never really on any of the huge events of Don't Flop, and then he moved to King of the Ronalds, and then he's like I the King of the Ronalds events that I went to, him and Reverse Live, unfortunately didn't happen, and then I just didn't get to see him for a long time. The first battle I saw in the room was the Templar Surfer battle.
Oh, great battle! Turn Wicked Man to the Wicker Man. Like, ooh, this is the last straw. Crazy bar, crazy
Oh my
fucking
God,
bar.
man! Like, I remember I'm a huge Templar fan, and I thought Templar was going to take that easily, and Hulk, just because I'd kind of got so used to Hulk freestyling the majority of his battles, and that battle happened, and it was unbelievable to watch in the room. Like, it was so good, and it's so underviewed even now. And then I was at the Empire event where he battled Chrome, where he was even better again. Like, him versus Chrome was,
Sick battle.
I
Sick
mean,
battle.
potentially battle of the event in that Shocks and Sensor was incredible to see live, but Shocks didn't really write much for Sensor. So I'd probably edge it to Hulk and Chrome over them. But
Yeah, it was really annoying actually, man. I had to be somewhere. So I caught the first. I was chatting to Kinnell beforehand, and I was like, "Yeah, man, it's really annoying. I had to catch a coach from around that part of London anyway. So I was like, I'm going to be in the area, but I can't stick around and watch any of it." He was like, well, I tell you what, if I've got a +1 that I'm not using, you could just use it to come in and watch what you can of the event. So I was there for like the first 3 battles, and I think Hulk versus Chrome was the last battle I saw before I had to run out and get it. Get my coach, but I was so annoyed that I missed
yeah, it was
Shocks
it was
versus
very
Sensor.
early in the day, that battle. But
Mm.
yeah, that's a shame, man. Because do you know what,
It
that
was very,
event
yeah,
got
annoying.
a lot of stick online, and for me, it might be one of my favorite events. It's probably top 3 favorite events that I've ever been to. Like, it
Really,
was,
really.
yeah, honestly, man, everything was reasonably on time, and it was just not many people turned. I was expecting it to sell out, and it definitely didn't. But it
Mm.
was one of those events where it was probably the room was like 50% battlers or people involved in the scene, and 50%
Yeah,
fans. So
yeah, yeah.
for me, so long term, like, my story is I'd only been to 3 events before this. Um,
Mm.
and well, no, sorry, that's not right. I've been to 3 events in London before this,
Right.
and they'd all been massive don't flop events where I'd not really got to speak to any battlers and things like that. Whereas this was different in that I got to speak to everybody there that day,
Right.
and
Right.
I got into London super early. I was there for, like, I think the event started at like 2. I was in Shoreditch for like 10:30 maybe. So I was at this little pub, like, there's an alleyway kind of next to concrete. There's a pub down there. I was just kind of sat in there waiting for
Yeah.
the event to start, and got talking to these guys that had come all the way down from Scotland for the event for the weekend and stuff. And they're just like, they had this friend who lived in Belgium and was a qualified, like, chocolatier that had started making these fucking crazy edibles and stuff like that. So we were like, I just have so many good memories of that event as a whole. Like, it was so much fun on the day, and like, just getting the chance to sit down and have like a long conversation with, like, Kinnell and Hulk, and Mickey was there, and like, yeah, it was just a great event, man.
That was, yeah. Well, I mean, well, from what I remember, it was really good. But like I say, I was only there briefly. But I don't know, man. It's weird. It's weird, isn't it? It's not necessarily the biggest events or the sort of most celebrated events that stick in people's minds. It's very,
No.
very personal in that regard.
And I don't know if you noticed, but Chrome's dad was with him.
I heard about this afterwards. I didn't notice at the time.
Yeah, and like I'll always remember. So the last battle of the day was Matter versus Peanut, and they ran out of time in the venue, and they had to go round the corner to like the arches and have the battle outside. But there's a bunch of kids at the other end of the tunnel like shouting, and
Right.
all of a sudden, like everyone turns round, and all of a sudden, Chrome's dad, who I'd say is probably late 50s, early 60s, just goes pouting towards these kids to scare them off, and it's one of the funniest things that I've ever seen. I don't think he really spoke any English either, because they're
Just
from
French. Yeah.
they're from like Quebec or Montreal or somewhere like that. But it was just such a cool event from start to finish, man. And at that point, just getting to speak to Organic was like a bit of a strange feeling as well.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even see him there. Like, I don't think I think I'd left before he even arrived, because he arrived a bit late, didn't he?
He, from what I remember, he got there just as Dialect and Vega was starting, which I think was the third from last battle.
Right. Yeah, I definitely would have missed it then. Vega, man, that guy, like, he's not been over in a while, but I really like Vega.
Yeah, he's fucking amazing, man. I've got Ted, who battled Canal, coming on the show soon.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I was a big fan of him as well. I love him and Canal as a battle. It's amazing. But I'm getting Ted on the show, and I'm gonna try and get him to hook me up with people like Vega, and I'd absolutely love to speak to Dundee as well, because I'm a huge Dundee fan, and
Dundee's
the
amazing.
Australian scene is cool, man. There's a lot of good battlers over there.
Yeah. I've never fully delved in, but I don't know why I haven't really, because every time they come over, they always put on, really rep for their scene. They want people to go away with a good impression of, Australian battlers, or because who do we've had over? We've had who was it that sold Purpose? Even when Purpose came up.
Purpose.
Like, I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's one of Soul's best rounds ever. But you sort of feel like if Purpose had maybe rapped against somebody else, that would have been, because Soul won so clearly. But it's not like Purpose was slacking.
I don't know if Soul won that clearly. I do think Purpose held his own in that, and like I think he's an incredible battler. I don't think he battles anymore, unfortunately, but he battled over here a few times, if I remember rightly. I think Soul was his second battle over here. Oh man, who else did Purpose battle? Because I know he came up through Don't Flop. I think he battled in like a Don't Flop Australia tournament, and won the tournament, which got him the chance over here. But Soul was his second battle over here, if I remember rightly. He battled somebody else first. I think it was Quill.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell, actually. That is ringing a bell.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Quill. And that was a really good battle as well on both ends. And who else have we had over here? Obviously, Decoy back in the day, but I think he lived here then. Vega, Ted, Dundee. I think that could be it.
I've just looked it up. It is Quill versus Purpose. It was annoying me. I had to look it up.
Yeah, I thought it was, and that's a really good battle as well. But I think that's it in terms of Australian guys, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Um,
But they always put on, man. They always put on.
yeah, definitely, and I'd love to see Ted, Vega, Dundee, like all those guys get booked over here again. I know Dundee was, I think it was originally meant to be Dundee versus Chris Lees at the first All Star game, if I remember rightly, but
I think that's right. Yeah.
Dundee couldn't make it, so Caustic got booked, if I remember rightly. But yeah, huge fan of those guys, man. But would I mean for yourself, like, what would you say is the best battle that you've seen live?
Oh, Jesus Christ. The best battle that I've seen live. Um, God. I mean, the one that sticks out in my memory is is in terms of atmosphere. Shocks versus Tony was pretty crazy
Okay,
to see live because it was like
yeah,
because the event had been so good leading up to that point that it was like, even though it was the last battle of the day, it wasn't, sometimes it gets to the last battle of the day and people are kind of like, okay, right, can we get this done now, please? I'm tired and my legs hurt, that it wasn't the case of that. It was like the atmosphere in the room was absolutely electric. And then remember how Shock started that whole thing. Also the legend goes, if you spit 3 rounds, you don't lose. But if I spit one, you won't move. And then he had a
yeah,
haymaker in the first 2 bars. It was just from the word jump, from the word go. It was absolutely it was electric in there. But then in terms of big style battles, actually it's crazy. Shocks in both of them. Shocks versus Soul was pretty fucking awesome to see live. Um, I tell you what, I saw Lego versus Ogmios live at like my second event or something that I'd been to live, and that was a really good battle actually live. I remember it's not necessarily got the most replay value, but I remember absolutely cracking up in the room when Ogmios pulled out the little Lego man. Um,
yeah. I love that battle.
yeah, I'm trying to think because I didn't really make it to that many events until I started battling, but. No, I think I'm going to stick with my original answer. I think Shocks versus Tony just for the atmosphere was pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, that's a good list, man, and unfortunately 3 events that I wasn't at as well, so I'm very jealous in that sense. But yeah, my first nil event was nil 3 where you battle Terminal, so I
Yeah.
missed a lot in that sense. But it's a good list, and like the one question that people have found very hard to answer, which is pretty much the final battle rap related question, is if you were a promoter and you had unlimited funds to put an event together, what matchups have you wanted to see and what would you put on the card?
Okay, right. So you told me a little in advance about this a little bit, so I have actually jotted down a couple of things, and there are some reasons behind them as well. So I'm
Cool.
I'm slightly prepared for this. There's a battle that I've been wanting to see for absolutely ages, which we're never going to see. I always thought that A versus O'Shea was a battle waiting to happen. Um, I think that would be they've got kind of similar elements to their A is almost like a laid back version of O'Shea in many regards, and it's sort of I'd love to see that. So that's a battle that I've wanted to see for years actually. Um, then obviously you've got some like big sort of marquee matches. I think that Shotty Horror versus New Jersey Twerk would be one of the like those guys are both rock stars, right? The levels of delivery and performance in Shotty Horror versus New Jersey Twerk would just be
Yeah.
amazing. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Dunch versus Calcium Kid because Dunch has got a very, very pointed form of wit, whereas Calcium Kid is always kind of absolutely psychedelic in the way that he writes. So I've always wanted to see that. The fact that Shufflo versus Ilmac and the Saurus has never happened is an absolute travesty as far as I'm concerned. So we'd like to see that. I've Big K versus Shocks is kind of an obvious answer because, you know, there's sort of vague similarities in there, but there's no denying that would be an absolutely incredible battle. And then I've put down here as well, like I've Roan versus Kruger, Caustic versus Yunnan. I'm not really sure on those matchups. I've always wanted to see Roan and Caustic perform live, and I've always wanted to see Kruger battle live, which I've never had the chance to see. And I thought, like, well, maybe Roan and Kruger could be an interesting kind of, you know, interesting style clash. Then Caustic versus Yunnan both get up in each other's grills and spit some horrible shit to each other, which would be sick. But then I've put down as the final battle, and this wouldn't cost any money to set up, Conman Curve versus Georgie Roots.
Okay. No, I like it. I like it a lot.
Just all-star cards don't make sense, right? Now, Conman Curve's performance in Ireland was absolutely wonderful, absolutely brilliant. And Georgie Roots
flawless.
And Georgie Roots is the most exciting prospect that we've had come through UK battle rap in a long time. And I think that if you want to see a future to the scene, Conman Curve and Georgie Roots are the exact kind of guys that we need to be pushing. So that's the last battle that I've got on that list.
I really like it, man. I like the whole list. Georgie Roots battled at Don't Flop Bristol recently, and he battled a guy that's also on the come up on Don't Flop called Tech, TK.
Yeah, they both tried out at the same event. I've seen them both.
Oh, okay, nice. And I personally, it was a really, really good battle on both sides. Like, I really enjoyed it. And personally, I had Tech beating Georgie.
Really?
So,
interesting.
Yeah, definitely look out for Tech as well. And that, obviously, that's not a dig at Georgie in any way. I love what he's doing, and he's so active as well. He's doing like a battle pretty much every other week at the moment, and it's amazing to see how hungry he is, and he makes good music and stuff as well. But I thought Tech.
Sorry, cut you off. I was just going to say the only thing I'd say to Georgie is don't burn yourself out too early, dudes. Do not oversaturate yourself. You leave the people wanting more. Don't rinse your brand before you've had a chance to build it. I just wanted to get that on in case he's listening, because I think that he's such. Sometimes people do that. They rush into this scene with almost too much, and they've burnt out their selling points before they've had a chance to really develop them. And it would be such a shame to waste a talent like Georgie. So
definitely, hopefully he is listening. He's coming on the show on Saturday as well, so I'm looking forward to talking to him a bit more about his progression and stuff. But I really like the cards you've put together, man. And there's a couple of battles on there that are on mine as well, to be fair. Like Shufflosaurus Ilmac has to happen at some point.
It
will. Someone will book it. But Big K and Shocks is on mine as well, and everybody that's asked to hear mine has been really surprised by that battle. So it's not as I was with you. I thought it was an obvious choice, but apparently not. But
it's like makes
I know that
ever.
Unfortunately, Shocks is I do completely agree. And like, unfortunately, I know Shocks is on Big K's 20-page long block list, so I don't know if it will ever happen, but I would love to see it. And I'd also, on the subject of Big K, it might sound a bit random, but just logistically speaking, it makes sense because they live quite close to each other. But I'd really like to see Big K versus Glue Easy. I'm a massive Glue Easy fan.
I think the only Glue Easy battle I've ever seen. He battled Reverse live, right?
Oh, I don't know. If he has, I don't think I've seen that.
Well, I seem to remember watching it, and I think that he had like a thing where he sort of flipped Reverse Live's name. He was like, "Oh, if you reverse live, you get evil, so that makes you evil, right?" And he said it was something, and then like Reverse Live was like, "Yeah, that's like why I'm fucking called Reverse Live." And I think it was the only time I'd seen Glue Easy battle, and I was sort of like, I wasn't sold on it on that, but he's good. Yeah. What should I check out of his if I want to go if I want to see?
So a battle is about to drop from him on. So yeah, I don't think Glue Easy would have battled Reverse because, to my knowledge, he's only ever battled on URL and a league called Body Bag.
Right.
He's kind of come through the PG process. So yeah, as far as I know, like I don't think he's even battled anybody from like the West Coast in general. So I'm trying to think who it is that battles Reverse because I think I know the battle that you're thinking of. I think that's the Bobby O battle, or no, Bobby Lee battle.
Rosenberg Raw is another. That's who it was. I've just looked it up. It's a completely different person.
Okay.
Ignore
Yeah,
me. Another white guy.
I
Another
get
white
it.
guy.
Yeah, they look very similar. They both.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do you know what? I'm not sure if they're both albino or not, but yeah, they look similar. But Glue Easy, him versus Tay Rock will be out on YouTube pretty soon, I think, and he 3-0'd Tay Rock in my opinion, and
Oh wow.
he battled Av on URL, which I think is out on YouTube now, where the reason the Tay Rock battle came about is like Tay Rock is being his usual dickhead self and like ad-libbing everything that Ab says, hyping him up, and ad-libbing everything that Glue Easy says, talking him down. And mid-battle, he flips it and Tay Rock's like rolling a joint and he slaps the joint out of his hand and involves it in a flip and like he like screams, Tay Rock, I'll slap the joint out of your hand, and like proper whacks it, and it's really good. Like it's a really strong battle. I'm just a big fan of him in general, but him and Big K just makes a lot of sense to me. But it's a good list, man. But apart from that, that's pretty much it for the battle rap related questions. There's a few, like 2 or 3 music questions I've been asking, and then finishing up with 3 of the most random questions ever. But if you had to pick your favorite album of all time, what would you say it was?
Oh holy shit. Oh god. Yeah, God, that's a big question to drop on somebody. So there's a special place in my heart always for Demon Days by Gorillaz because it was the first album I ever saved up and bought with my own money.
Nice.
So there's always a I tell you what, I'm not sure if it 100% counts as an album, but one of the, oh god, Transformer, Lou Reed.
Okay.
There's a series of tapes released by Bob Dylan called the bootleg tapes. I think there are 3 or 4 volumes. Bootleg tape volume 2 it's not really an album, but it's more just a release of unreleased and rare Bob Dylan tracks. But that's got a really special place in my heart. Solid Air, John Martin. I don't know. There are quite a few. There are quite a few.
Nice.
Yeah.
They're all answers that haven't come up before, which I like that. And to be honest, I think this is episode 22 that I've recorded now, and the only album that's come up twice at the moment is 36 Chambers by Wu-Tang. So it's been
To be fair,
interesting.
that is a great fucking album.
And
I can't.
if I'm honest, it's
Illmatic.
probably mine. So
I can't
yeah,
believe that
Illmatic.
Yeah, I was thinking that everybody's got to be saying Illmatic. I mean, but
Does
then again,
come up
it's
once.
great.
Yeah.
It's a great album, to be fair. But yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. But before I'm a rap guy, I'm a guitar guy. So is
Nice,
that's why I
man.
like no hip hop sort of comes up in my favorite albums, as it were. I've got more like rap songs that I like, and then albums wise, it'll be like vocals
That's
and
fair
guitar
enough.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
No, I'm into all sorts of music, man. So like I've pretty much, I could probably name a favorite album from most genres, to be fair. But yeah, I'm mainly like, if I had to pick my favorite genre, it'd probably be hip hop, to be honest. But like, what's the best live act you've ever seen? So like the best gig you've ever attended?
Is music wise,
Yeah.
I've seen next to no live music. I tell you what, actually, I saw something recently. I'm not sure if it's the best thing I've ever seen live, but are you aware of a place called Ronnie Scott's in London? Is It's a very famous.
So
Okay, so it's a very famous old jazz bar in Soho, and it's had so many greats come through there. And I saw, obviously, minus James Brown, I saw James Brown's band play there a few years ago. That was pretty fucking incredible. Um, and
amazing.
that was pretty awesome. But then more recently, I don't even know what her name is, but it was this soul singing lady doing covers of John Martin's music, and I really like John Martin. I think John Martin was a special sort of talent on the guitar, and she was doing the vocals for it, and they changed a lot of the chords there, and they like one of my favorite songs ever is this song "May You Never" by John Martin, and the way that they took that song and they changed it, and that was really special. And also, it's got a really again, it's like I haven't seen huge amounts of live music, if I'm being completely honest. Like I've been to some festivals and stuff like that, but you're usually too messed up at a festival to really be thinking about the music.
Yeah, sure.
But it was what my grandma died very, very, very recently, and we were very close. And it was sort of the last sort of big day out that we had together. You know what I mean? And so I look back on that John Martin sort of, well, not it's not a tribute act because none of the songs were done the same way that he did them, but that's got a really special place in my memory. So yeah, I'll go for that Ronnie Scott's performance of the music of John Martin.
Sure. I know, no, that's really nice, man. I appreciate that a lot. And yeah, not many people can say that they've been to a live music performance with their nan either. So that's
Yeah.
no, that's a really cool answer, man. I like that a lot. But um, is there any kind of musicians that you're a big fan of that are maybe lesser known and like people that myself or the listeners might not be aware of that you think people should check out?
Yeah, there is. And you know what? I should have put this down for one of my favorite albums as well. There's a rapper from Hell's Kitchen, New York City, called Marlon Craft. And this kid is something different. I mean, he's really fucking special, and everybody needs to band together. He's got two incredible albums. He's got more than these albums, but these especially stand out for me. He's got an album called The Tunnel's End, and he's got an album called Funhouse Mirror. He's on Spotify. I tweet him sort of like once a year or so, being like, "When are you coming to England? Because I want to see you live." Uh, Marlon Craft, go check him out. Everybody needs to hear this guy. He's so good. He's so fucking good.
Nice. I feel like I might have heard the name. I
Yeah,
definitely haven't checked them out though, so I'm gonna do so. And it reminds me, actually, I found an album pretty recently. Who's an American rapper that I'm not sure many people are aware of. And it's a bit confusing because I don't know if his name as an artist is actually Marlowe, as in Marlowe, or if that is just the name of the album. Because the guy is on Twitter as Rakeem Brigham or something like that, and the producer is a producer called Le Orange. And they've combined to make this project called Marlowe. So I don't know if it's going to be a regular thing and they're actually a group or if it's just the one album, kind of like a Mad Villain situation. But that album is on Spotify as well, and I think it's probably the best release from last year, in my opinion. So if you get a bit of spare time, put that on and see what you think. I definitely recommend that. But that's cool, man. And finally, the three random questions. So, if you could pick anywhere in the world for your next holiday or trip, where would you most like to go?
Japan. I've always wanted to
Yeah,
go.
um,
I've been.
yeah, me too. It's top of my list, but unfortunately, it seems like it's probably the most expensive place in the world to go to. But
It's a
I'm,
tough one too.
yeah, yeah, Japan's top for me too, man. But what's your favourite trip that you've done so far? Like, where's the favourite place that you've been?
Well, I went to Vietnam when I was a teenager. That was pretty fucking cool. Um, I mean, when I went out to America for 6 months, I was like out there by myself. That was pretty awesome. But I don't know if that, I was living in Connecticut. Connecticut itself is pretty unremarkable. But the time, the people that I was with and the friends I made when I was out there, that was pretty awesome. Uh, yeah, I mean, I would say certainly like the place that sort of wowed me the most was Vietnam. We started in the north and worked our way down to the south. But then also I cycled down the Dalmatian coast of Croatia. That was pretty cool because it's a cool way to see a country. But
Yeah,
so that was pretty fun. Well, one of those three, I would say. One of those three.
nice, man. Yeah, I'm my girlfriend bought tickets for us for Outlook Festival for Christmas this year, which is in Croatia, and
Mm.
providing COVID-19 allows us to go, we'll be going in the summer, and we're hoping to kind of explore Croatia and Montenegro while we're like after the festival as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Good to hear that was a good trip. But are you much of a sports fan? Like, what would you say is your favourite sports team?
I'm a big old Fulham fan. I was a season ticket holder there for a long time, and then my dad's a Man United fan, so I sort of got, because Fulham are never going to win the Premier League, right? So in those competitive games for titles, that I'll support Man U with my dad, but I live about 15 minutes from Craven Cottage, so yeah, I'm a big Fulham.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice, man. Cool club, and yeah, I'm a Liverpool fan myself, but I think you're maybe only the second Fulham fan I've ever spoke to. So
They were
always
rare
nice to mix
breeds.
it up a bit. Yeah, so originally I'm from Hereford, which is like quite close to the Welsh border.
Hmm.
And there was just one random Fulham fan at my school who had no connection to London or anything, but fair play to him. But
You got all the clubs in London to choose from, and you pick Fulham. Like, what? It's painful being
yeah,
a fan. It's just endless disappointment. Save obviously that one season with Hodgson, but aside from that, like not very much.
yeah,
Haven't had much success over the last 10 years or so.
no, of course, man. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, like especially with you being a season ticket holder, you might appreciate this, but I actually met Breda Hangland quite briefly, so that was
Oh,
pretty
I
cool. But
do. He's probably one of the best, if not the best centre back we've ever had. He was
yeah,
fantastic.
yeah, man, I randomly met him. I was living in Sweden, and we went to Stockholm for like a weekend, just me and a group of mates, and we ended up in this nightclub after Sweden had just played. It was like during a European Championships, and Breda Hangland was just randomly in a bar in Stockholm, which was pretty cool. But I was one of the few people to recognise him, I think. So he was expecting a quiet night, and then ended up having to put up with me being very drunk, talking rubbish at him for about 20 minutes. But yeah, nice guy, very nice
Yeah.
guy. But and the final one, which it's brought up some horrible answers and some great answers, but you can pick one sweet and one savoury. but what's the go-to snack?
I don't really have a sweet one. I don't really have a sweet tooth. I mean, maybe I occasionally really like jelly beans, if that's a sweet thing. I don't know, but I don't really have a sweet tooth. I eat an inordinate number of sandwiches, if that counts as savoury. I don't
Oh,
know
fair.
yeah, I like pastrami sandwiches with like pickle and mustard and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
I've that's the quickest way to my heart, to be honest. I remember once I came home from work and I finished at about I don't know, maybe 1 in the morning that night. It was a really late show. I work at the Hammersmith Apollo, right? When I'm not studying, and I'd got roped into doing the after show. I got back at like 1, 2 in the morning, whatever it was, and my girlfriend had left me a pastrami sandwich in the fridge, and it was like, oh god, I've made some good decisions along along the way.
Yeah, yeah, man, definitely. That's a
Yeah.
keeper right there. But no, that's good. I've had a couple of weird answers, to be fair. I've had chocolate raisins from LSD. Didn't know how to respond to that, and then
He's so weird. I tell LSD in this when I see him. LSD, you're a complete weirdo, mate.
yeah, I didn't know how to respond to that, if I'm honest. But then I think it was Jolly J topped it. So I don't know if you're aware of Jolly J,
I
but
know
he's
Jolly J. Yeah, he
yeah, I'm a
runs in
big fan of
Germany.
his. But yeah,
The
yeah,
Little
that's
Lazy
him.
You.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, a big fan of Jolly J as well. But he said Marmite Twiglets, and I nearly hung up on him. But um, I then I did speak to Max Sherry yesterday as well, and Max Sherry asked me what does savoury mean. So that was probably the biggest surprise. But yeah,
Yeah, of course he fucking did. Of course he fucking did.
and then he asked me if chocolates counted as sweet. Didn't really know how to answer, but bless him.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah,
yeah. He's an innocent sort of type, Max Sherry.
yeah. No, it's a fun interview though. To be fair to him, I am a fan of him. I like how he's taken a lot of shit and just never really. A lot of people in his position would have given up years ago, and I've got a huge amount of respect for him in that sense. And
No, I
he's
love him.
always got better as well. He has
Yeah.
always showed improvement.
No, I've got a lot of time for Mac as not just as a person. He's improved as a battler, but I mean, at some point, I want to like make a movie about Max Sherry or something like that. You couldn't write this shit. Uh,
He actually mentioned yesterday that him and Disaster nearly happened, which I was not aware of, and I love the idea. It would be
absolutely
amazing.
amazing. I wish that happened. I mean, yeah, Mickey managed. At one point, he messaged Bear Solutions and I saying that he wanted to get who was it, Pedro and Disaster to battle me and Bear Solutions in a 2-on-2. I think he was banding the idea around to a few people because he got like a message from Disaster once saying that he wants to do a King of the Ronalds battle, but and then I think he was using it as sort of like because he was I think having a problem with people sort of defecting to Don't Flop and stuff like that. I think he was
Mhm.
using it as a way to sort of be like, hey, dude, if you stick around and you show some loyalty, this is a possibility. I think Sam and I kind of like, yeah, I feel like that's not going to happen, and clearly we were right.
Yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I realised that if he'd have come to have done that battle, he would have just spent 3 rounds screaming the words "fuck Rowan Fife" over and over again. I imagine, but yeah,
Yeah,
he's it would have been it would have been great nonetheless to have seen Max Sherry get matched up with Disaster. But
it's yeah.
on that note, though, that is everything completed, man. But again, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on. I know you're extremely busy at the moment, so it's been really fun chopping it up with you. And we've gone for almost 2.5 hours as well, so it's one of the longer episodes that I've done so far. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm literally about to do an episode with O'Shea as well, so
Amazing.
definitely been one of the more enjoyable evenings that I've had. But yeah, is there anything that you want to plug or anything, or like anything that you want in the description to this video for where people can find you?
Absolutely not. In fact, I'd really appreciate it if people left me alone. I'm not I'm not a particularly sociable person in that regard. I don't really. I've got rid of most of my socials. I think I've kept Twitter, and that's about it. Um, unless you're going to book me, yeah, I've got a Twitter. It's under Lazy Arse Jack, but don't feel the need to tweet at me or anything like that. I probably won't reply. I'm not on there very much. I've got nothing to plug.
No, I
Yeah.
rate it. No worries, man. We'll keep the socials out of the description box. But yeah, again, man, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it, and hopefully we get to chop it up again soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
No worries, and all the best with your studies and stuff, man. I hope it goes okay.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Thank you very much. Yeah, take
No
it easy.
worries. Bye bye, man.
Bye bye.